the NBA season tipped off last night. We saw the banner ceremony in Cleveland, and tonight in Philadelphia, Tim Legler, can you believe the 76ers are on your network? Who decided to put them on? Opening night in Philadelphia, 8 o'clock, a celebration of a 3-year process, kind of, maybe, sort of?
Well, I think as soon as you heard the words from Adam Silver with the number 1 pick in the 2016 NBA draft, Ben Simmons, I think that's when that decision was made. So obviously, you fast forward, you got no Simmons, Nerlens Noel's out. At least you're going to get Embiid tonight and Okafor. But it's not quite the product that we expected to see opening night out of Philly.
No, it's not. But let's start with Embiid, because for 2 years we've talked about this mythical figure. We've finally seen him, and the numbers this preseason, pretty eye-popping for the amount of minutes he played. I know I talked to Coach Brown yesterday. He's on a minute restriction, and he told me it's going to be a fist fight every night to try to keep this guy off the court. But 2 years in the making, what is your expectations for this kid?
Well, I mean, for what I've seen from him in the preseason, it's really, honestly almost impossible right now to figure out what his ceiling is, because you don't see one in certain areas, right? He's a very unique player with his size, athletic ability. His combination of power and finesse. You know, a lot of guys that are pretty accomplished perimeter shooters when they're 7 feet tall, they never really develop anything down low that they can go to and overwhelm and overpower guys and get quality shots for themselves. They're back to the basket. He can do both of those things. And I think there were times early on it looked like I was kind of asking myself, is he going to be more of a perimeter player? Because I don't know that necessarily suits the Sixers' needs. And necessarily will fulfill who he can be as a player. But as the preseason went on, you could really see him get more and more comfortable going down into the post, play with his back to the basket, absorb some contact, and score down there as well. So the fact that he can do both is a blessing for them. Defensively, he can be a difference maker. It's been tough to gauge certain things because, he played 12 or 13 minutes, I think 5 consecutive preseason games. They played him a little bit more toward the end. I think he played 20 minutes or 18 minutes in his last preseason game. So we really haven't seen him out there for what a normal starter's minutes are. And that's when that does happen at some point later on in the year, it'll be a lot easier really to see exactly what his impact's going to be on a game for a 48-minute night. We haven't seen anything close to that. So we've just seen bits and pieces and spurts in the start of the game typically. And so that's not really what an NBA season consists of. So we still have questions, but the talent and the potential are undeniable. This guy has the potential to be a star in this league.
Yeah, Tim, 5 4-minute spurts is kind of the way that it's been described that he'll play. How hard is this on Brett Brown, where he's got a guy who, in his mind, is healthy? The Sixers were in a lot of close games late last year. They just fell apart. They're in the lead or have a close game late, and he's out of minutes. How do they wrestle with that?
It's going to be tough. Obviously, they're in a different situation because even though it's the first season now, and I guess this is the first one in 4 years where they actually have intent on winning games, and they're going to try to move this thing forward. They position themselves the way that the NBA forces you to basically strip it down as far as you have to get these type of picks. Well, now they're cashing the picks in, but at some point you got to get that train moving forward. They're doing that now. The problem is, with all the different injuries that they still are either have guys coming back from, or now Ben Simmons goes out, you're still going to be losing a lot of games. So I think Brett Brown needs to keep it in perspective that they can't change their philosophy on what they're going to do with him because they collectively came up with this idea of how they're going to utilize him and play him. Don't change that to win an additional couple of games in the month of November on a season that's going to be another year where you're going to have a ton of losses. The important thing is to change the culture in the locker room and the identity of what you're trying to do as an organization. And I think people will accept the fact that you're starting off the year shorthanded once again, and they'll be patient with you as long as they know that you're actually trying to now put together a viable winning product. And this is the first time we've seen it in recent memory out of the Sixers. So that's a positive thing. I don't think Brett Brown needs to overreact to game situations to try to get a win, in the first couple months of the season by putting Joel Embiid out there and playing him more minutes than they're comfortable with. We could debate about this minutes restriction all day. That's a completely different topic. Whether I think that is something that really matters or not, to the extent that they're taking it, that's a totally different topic. The bottom line is this is what the organization has decided, so they've got to stick with that. And if that means, you don't have your best player out there for stretches when maybe you could stop a run of another team or take control of a game, then Sixers fans are going to have to live with that.
Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst. Sixers Thunder tonight on ESPN television, 8 o'clock. If you can't get in front of a TV, we have it on 97.3 ESPN. Your opinion. Now, you're a shooter. You'd probably love to have these two guys, but can Embiid and Okafor coexist?
I think they can to a certain extent. I don't think you could play them like, the two of those guys be out there for, 30 minutes a night together. I think you're going to have some real problems defensively if that's the case. The way that this league is set up, where every team now has a four-man that seems like is a ball handler shooter. It's difficult when you spread you out and space you out that much defensively to be able to cover the kind of ground you're going to have to in your rotations, your switches, being able to get to guys at the three-point line. In transition, teams are faster than they've ever been. So I think that would be a real problem for you defensively. But I think in limited stretches together, I think they can create a real interesting dynamic on the other end of the floor that's going to make it tough for teams to guard them. But I do think defensively they will struggle at times if those two guys are out there against the wrong lineup. It's going to be tough to cover all that. And are they going to be in a situation where, they're just so good offensively they can overcome that? Not yet. That's going to take some time because you're going to see some real inconsistency out of both of those guys throughout this season. Okafor, has 2/3 of an NBA season under his belt, missed all of basically the preseason. He's going to have some rust here at the beginning of the year. Embiid's on a minutes restriction, and he's a rookie. They're going to have ups and downs offensively. They're not necessarily making you pay for playing a smaller lineup. But on the other end, they're going to have a real difficult time catching up to the basketball at times with that lineup.
Timmy, it's like the opening of the 2014 regular season because Saric is also playing the other guy in that draft. What have you seen from him with the Olympics and then in the preseason here? Is he a guy that you think will have an NBA impact? Because, there's this thought of, can he come over and play some of these guys? What have you seen from Saric? Do you think he makes an NBA impact?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And the first time I really saw an extended version of him was this summer in the Olympics. I didn't know much about him. I'd seen the typical clips and tapes that we get, in analyzing these foreign players. I really watched him play a ton in Rio, and I was very impressed with, right off the bat, the thing that jumped out to me is a guy like this on your team infinitely improves your IQ as a team. And his ability to read the floor, how hard he plays, how hard he cuts, he guards, and then when he gets the basketball, he's so decisive with where the ball goes next. It just helps the flow of your offense. It makes you a smarter team. And Brett Brown hasn't had enough of those type of guys on the floor. So I love his versatility. I love his IQ for the game. He's got a mature, polished aspect to his game that they lack in a lot of their younger players. So even though he's a young player, he just plays beyond his years. Maybe that's as a result of being, playing as a professional at a much younger age in Europe than you do over here at the competition level, for 15, 16-year-olds, playing as a pro. Maybe that does something to the way you grow up. But he definitely has a maturity to his game, and I think he's going to be a mainstay for the Sixers. And he's going to be a guy, I think, that Sixers fans are going to want on the court more and more as the season goes on.
Him and Embiid, probably. Sports Bash
yeah,
Live.
Absolutely. Well, no doubt about Embiid. He's just going to give you enough to wet your taste buds, but that's all you're going to get out of Embiid early on.
Hopefully Simmons somewhere down the line. We know Noel's out so much of this NBA season begins tonight on ESPN. Oklahoma City is in town. No Durant. He got blown out last night as the banner went up in Cleveland. Great start to the season. Tim Legler and ESPN all over it. Tim, we always appreciate the time, pal.
You got it. I'm sure I'll be talking to you throughout the year, Mike. Enjoy the game tonight.